This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Tonight in New York City, the former home of Democracy Now!'s Firehouse studio will open as Firehouse, DCTV's cinema for documentary film. It comes as DCTV celebrates 50 years of media activism and training. The cinema's ribbon cutting last week featured New York City Council member Christopher Marte and DCTV co-founder and co-executive director Keiko Tsuno.
Years ago, we never dreamed that this theater would become a reality. At that time, we started our theater from an old mill truck, and our audience of people from passing by, and so this is something we never expected and never imagined. With this new theater, we will be able to reach even more people and to transform more lives.
Many people here know Jon or Keiko through their international work, whether it's going to Cuba and being one of the first documentarians to interview Fidel Castro, or his work in Russia, or his work in the Amazon, or his work in the Middle East. But here in the community, we know him for what he's done here for decades. Whether it is interviewing garment workers as they were taking on their bosses for exploitive working condition and working hours, or is using his TV truck along pantry lines to teach people how to speak English, where he would go up and help them read what's on the screen, or documenting what happened to our community post 9/11, or through the pandemic. And now with this fight, stopping the world's tallest jail from being constructed here in Chinatown and in Lower Manhattan.
For more on the opening of Firehouse, DCTV's cinema for documentary film, we're joined by its co-founder and co-executive director, Jon Alpert, and by filmmaker Craig Renaud, who we'll talk more with in a minute. First, Jon, congratulations both on the opening of the cinema and also just last night, you won another Emmy. This time, it's a News and Documentary Emmy for Outstanding Crime and Justice Documentary for your HBO film Life of Crime, 1984 to 2020. About three friends from Newark, New Jersey, and their addictions who you have followed for decades. Welcome back to Democracy Now! And congratulations.
Thanks, Amy. Listen, I was hoping we could actually be in the studio. Everybody at DCTV says, Democracy Now! T-shirts, please, please.
Well, I wish we were right there with you in the Firehouse studios, but it is so beautiful to see what you have created at DCTV right now. Can you talk about, well, take it where Chris Marte had left off. Place this Firehouse cinema for us, where it is, right there in Chinatown, what's next door, and what you're hoping to accomplish with it.
Well, it actually inhabits some of the former Democracy Now! Studio. And so the vibes that emanate from your presence there have really blessed us and inspired us. We wanted to build something that really respected and paid tribute to documentaries. You've seen the theater. It's the most beautiful theater in the city. It's completely interactive. We can connect any two places in the world, so we can have discussions with Kazakhstan, we can have discussions with you. And it's the documentary theater we would have liked to have had as we went through our career and sort of always got the dregs of whatever was in the film world. We're documentary makers. We built it for the documentary community, and we want everybody to come there. You'll see from the programming from the gentleman that's coming on next that this is going to be a different type of theater that's going to serve the community. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's 90 feet away from what is projected to be the first world jail scraper. This is a 40-story jail, $9.5 billion, no money for schools, no money for housing, no money for health care, but money for iron bars. I mean, it's almost incomprehensible that somebody thinks that this is a good plan. Everybody in the community opposes it. It's probably the physical end of DCTV. If this gets constructed, it's over for us. It's absolutely over for the community. And we're working, trying to get the city to come to its senses, because we've got two perfectly good jails that have been built there recently that can just be readapted. If you readapt those jails and then take the savings and spend it on the things that prevent people from going to jail, giving opportunities to people, it'll be wonderful. We hope that the city will come to its senses.
You know,
otherwise,
just very quickly
this
on
new
that,
theater that we built is gone.
I remember right next door to us, as we were there too, broadcasting for years, was the Bernie Kerik detention complex. That's what it was called, right down the street from you. And then they had to take down that sign when Bernie Kerik was actually imprisoned there, the former police commissioner of New York. But just for people to understand, and we want to move on from this, but it is so critical. When you say a jailscraper, what are you talking about?
We're talking about a building that's probably a third of the size of the Empire State Building that is a jail. You know, New York City has a hellhole for a jail right now with Rikers Island. And the plan is to build local jails in the community. Our community supports that, but we don't support what's basically a gigantic pork barrel scheme to defund everything else and just build iron bars. It's a really bad idea.
So I want to move on to what's going to happen tonight. The dedication that is going to take place as the Firehouse, DCTV's cinema for documentary film, opens here in New York City. The lobby tonight will be dedicated to the filmmaker Brent Renaud, who worked out of DCTV for many years, along with his brother, who's joining us now, Craig Renaud, award-winning filmmakers who spent 2 decades producing films and television programs with Brent before Brent was killed earlier this year on March 13th near Kyiv in Ukraine, as he was filming refugees for a documentary series called Tipping Point. He was the first U.S. reporter killed in the Ukraine war. Craig, our deepest condolences to you and your family. On Democracy Now!, of course, we remembered Craig after he was killed. I could not even believe we were talking about remembering Craig as opposed to having Craig on to talk about what he was filming. And I look forward to seeing you there tonight, the whole family, as you dedicate the lobby of this documentary film cinema. Can you talk about Brent after these months of his death and what it means to you to have this cinema in the place where we both worked for so many years?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge honor. We were at DCTV yesterday getting a tour of the theater for the first time, and seeing the plaque to Brent. It's still surreal at this point. I would say, it's been 6 months, and it's still hard to believe that we're talking about Brent in this way. But this couldn't be a better way to honor him. Considering the many years and many films that we did with DCTV and Jon, to be coming back and honoring Brent in this way is really great. We're
showing a photograph right now of Jon and you and Brent and Sharif Abdel-Quddus.
No, is that the one? Is that the one where I'm in my surfer shorts?
You're just standing. But I want to go to a clip from Bridge to Baghdad, which, Jon, you directed, and Craig and Brent went together with Sharif in 2003 to Iraq.
Now we're going to visit my aunt. She lost her son in the bombing. He's my cousin from my mother's side, of course. And you'll see she's very sad.
The airplane came and threw
cluster bomb.
Yeah, whatever it is. I thought it's mushroom bomb. And I know it's forbidden. Why? Why my son? I lost my son and he's my treasure.
As you see from the bombing, there's holes on the windows. It happened because of the cluster bomb. It's so obvious. They are just civilian people.
And one went through that metal. See? You can see. Went through this metal, break this glass, and went to the wall, to the ceiling in the inside. This is his father, Qusay. It was in the night. I went to see him in the hospital.
There's no army here. Yeah. But though that American, they said Saddam Hussein killer, but I think Bush, it's more than killer, Saddam Hussein.
We're going to see his room, your bedroom.
When they told me he died, the doctor told me, I begged the nurse at least to give me some of his hair. This is all what I've got from him left, and a bit of blood. I'll show you. This is, she cut it to me after he died. I said, please, I wouldn't let them take him. And then they said, please, leave him in peace. It's over. He died. Anyway, this is his trouser when I kept it. Look. This is his leg. One of his legs. That's when he'd been shot. Look. The things all this been through him, all these holes. They cut it in the operation, full of holes. I mean, just look, the blood, look. Habibi, fat, God bless you. Habibi, look, full of holes. How could he? Look, all these holes from the bomb, and they said we don't hurt civilian people. We don't hurt civilian people, they hurt us.
Bridge to Baghdad, the film that was filmed by Craig and Brent Renaud, directed by Jon Alpert. Craig, you and Brent both appeared on Democracy Now! Several times to talk about your films, including that 10-part series, Off to War, for Discovery, about the deployment to Iraq of the National Guard from your home state of Arkansas. This is an excerpt.
Mama, mama, can't you see?
Mama, mama, can't you see?
What this army doing to me?
What this army doing to me?
As the war in Iraq enters its second year, nearly 3,000 soldiers from the Arkansas National Guard are called to active duty.
Most of these guys, before we got activated, held a civilian job.
If the turkey houses get sold, then so be it. It's out of my hands right now.
I don't want him to go.
Yeah, they're going to target you because they think you're just a bunch of lazy, fat National Guardsmen who don't know how to do their job.
These soldiers are part of the largest deployment of National Guardsmen since the Korean War.
The military has confirmed that 4 Arkansas soldiers are killed in Iraq this weekend.
57 of the Arkansas Guardsmen come from the town of Clarksville. This is their story as they leave home and family behind to serve in Iraq.
An excerpt from the documentary series Off to War, from rural Arkansas to Iraq, directed by Brent and Craig Renaud. In 2004, the Renaud brothers appeared on Democracy Now! To talk about their time embedded with the Arkansas National Guard. This is Brent.
We arrived in Baghdad with a National Guard unit, with the Arkansas National Guard, and these same sort of unarmored vehicles. Right away in April, which was one of the bloodiest months of the war when we arrived, there were, right off the bat, a lot of injuries and deaths, particularly with Echo Troop, who you just saw on the clip. Within that group, there were a number of guys who refused to go out on missions almost immediately after they had seen their friends and their fellow soldiers die right in front of them. Fortunately for them, Sergeant Short, who you see in the clip, the one talking in the Humvee, handled it internally, gave them time off, allowed them to get it together and to get back on the job. But I would say right off the bat, I witnessed about 3 to 4 guys who were just saying it's too dangerous to go out there. We're dropping like flies, as you also heard it in the clip. And this is pretty widespread sentiment.
That's dear Brent Renaud, the filmmaker, in the Firehouse studio when we were broadcasting there, talking about that amazing series, Craig. And I know this is so hard. It's as if he's right next to you, and you've worked for so many years together. Your final thoughts on how his legacy continues?
I mean, it's always going to continue. You know, I'm working on a film about Brent right now. You know, the nice thing is when I got to Ukraine, you know, I had two goals, which was to get Brent home to our family and to get Juan out of Ukraine. And then the second goal was to get
Juan
the
was the reporter he was working with.
Which I was able to do. And we filmed my entire journey going over there. So we're putting together a film right now about Brent's, you know, final assignment and the work that he died trying to do. So,
and Juan
that
was
would be a nice legacy for him.
Juan was his colleague in Ukraine who was also shot but not killed.
That's correct. Yeah, and Juan will be there tonight at the theater dedication.
Jon Alpert, your final thoughts as we move into the film you'll be showing tonight at your new cinema.
Well, I think Brent's a real hero. How many wars did you go to?
I've lost count. I'm not sure.
You can't count them. And, you know,
every war since 9/11.
Yeah, and you know, once you go to see war, something happens to you. It happened to you. It happened to me. And you need to tell the world what war is really like. You know, we have a lot of problems in America, but we've been fortunate that the wars in general haven't been here. But we've been involved in a lot of them, and it's important that Americans know what happens when people go to war. And Brent committed his life to telling that particular story, and he gave his life to that particular story. He's a real hero. And it's going to be a moment of pride every time we walk in the lobby and we see his picture up there, both tinged with sadness because we've all lost somebody who was fighting for us every single day, but very, very proud of what he's done.
Absolutely.
Well, Craig, I want to thank you for...
Craig's done the same thing. Okay, you've done the same thing. You know, this is what we do.
Craig, thank you for speaking with us today. It's great to have you back on Democracy Now! And Jon, filmmaker, co-founder and executive director of DCTV, who worked closely with Brent. We thank you both so much for being with us.